So with a wall, I'm going to click on wall inside of the architecture ribbon. And as you can see, when I clicked on that, it gave me some options here in this green bar, which remember, again, is our design options toolbar. Before we get into those though, let's learn at how a wall is constructed. So we're going to come over here to the properties box and we're going to click on the type selector at the top. And you're going to see all of the different types of walls that have been created for this template. They are actually created inside of this template file. I'm going to click on an exterior wall because I like to always put that in first, get the overall shape in. And you will see inside of this type selector that these are organized or named based off of their function. So exterior, foundation, generic for when you're not quite sure what the wall assembly is going to be yet, and interior walls. We're going to click on this exterior brick on wood stud wall. And then we're going to go and we're going to click on edit type. And that's going to bring up something called the type properties dialog box. These are properties that are specifically assigned to this wall type. And they're going to go throughout the project for any time that you use this wall inside of your project. I'm next going to click right here on this first box here where it says structure and it says edit. And I'm now inside of the wall assembly dialog box. I'm going to come down here to the bottom left corner and I'm going to click preview here. And this is going to actually show me the layers of how my wall is created. You will see that the wall is set up from exterior at the top to interior down at the bottom. And you will also see that the layers that are set up inside of here are based off of number one, their function, then they have their material, and then their thickness. And as you can see, this is showing that brick is a finished function. Of course, it is made out of brick, and this is its thickness of 3 5/8 of an inch. Next down from there is the thermal air layer, which is this space right here. The next is the membrane, which is this line along here, which actually does not have a thickness to it, so it starts out at a 0. So it must have this function as a membrane in order for it to be able to have that thin thickness. And then next down from here is our substrate, which is this plywood sheathing, which is right here. Then we get down into what's called the core boundary. Revit believes in gravity. Revit believes that something cannot just be floating out in space somewhere. It must have something that stands it up. And that is the structure right here inside of your core boundary. No matter how many layers you have inside of your wall assembly, you're going to always have a core boundary. So if you see here, this says structure softwood lumber. And I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see it. I'm going to expand this box over. And it's 5.5 inches, which is this layer right here. Then if we were to scroll down some more, they have a membrane layer for vapor retarder, and then a finish layer, which is your chipboard layer. These can be changed however you want. They can be taken out. They can be added to, whatever you want to do. My only recommendation is if you create a new wall type, I always like to duplicate the wall type and not modify something that's already there, because you never know if it's going to be used with something else. And I'll show what I mean here in a second for that. A few other things I want to point out really quick are this thing where it says add inserts, do not wrap. What that is referring to is what the material does at that moment. And if you'll see, if you look here, right now with the way that this is set up, all of these layers, except for this structure layer here, the stud layer, wrap or can wrap. Let me say it that way. If these were to be turned on down here at the bottom, the default wrapping at inserts and at ends, but right now they're not turned on. I am going to change this though, where at the ends, I'm going to tell it to wrap the exterior layers. And now I'm going to tell it okay. If I were to create a new wall type, once again, I like to duplicate it just so I don't change walls that are already in use. So I will say duplicate, And let's say maybe we go with a thinner wood stud for some reason. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll tell it exterior brick on wood stud, and I will specify maybe the size of the stud itself. So maybe we'll go to a 2x4. I'm going to tell this okay. I'm going to go back into my structure. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to where it's softwood lumber, and I'm going to actually change that to 3.5 because the wall assembly uses your actual dimension, not your nominal dimension. And I'm going to tell this okay, and you'll notice that it thinned up. And we're going to tell this okay here. And now I have two different types of this exterior brick and wood stud inside of my model. I am going to actually switch back to that regular one because that's the one I want to use, the one that has the 5.5-inch stud. The next thing I want to make sure I do is I want to now set what my base constraints and what my top constraints are. Over here in my properties box, because we're working off of the first floor plan, my first floor is my base constraint. That means that is where the wall is going to start elevation-wise. If we come to my design options toolbar, I want to declare the height of my wall based off of my level line. So I'm going to go right here where it says unconnected, and I'm going to actually change that. And because this is the exterior wall, most likely it's going to be shared on both the first floor and the second floor, I'm going to tell this to go all the way up to the roof. And because I told it to do that, you'll notice that this is now gray because now it's being set based off of whatever the level lines are set to inside of this project. I next want to change my location line with how I draw this. I'm going to change it to finish face exterior. And remember, the finish face exterior, when we looked at the wall assembly, is that brick layer. I'm now going to click at my number 1 and my E where those two meet. And if you pay attention, I'm going to go to the right. That way it keeps my brick on the outside. If I were to go down, that puts my brick on the inside. We don't necessarily want that. So we're going to go and we're going to click over here at the intersection of 5 and E. We're going to come down and click at the intersection of A5, then at the intersection of A1. And I'm going to do something really quick. I'm going to hit escape. And I only hit escape once because I wanted to stay inside of the command, but I want to start a different location inside of the model. If I hadn't done that, because chain is selected, it would have kept this connection point here. But I'm going to start back at 1 and E again, and I'm going to come straight down. And I know you're probably going, well, didn't you just say you didn't want to do that? This is true, but I'm going to show you something. I'm going to hit escape twice. I'm now going to click this one, and I want you to see that this has arrows on here right next to this wall that show up. One is going one way and one's going another way, and that is the wall orientation symbol. If I were to click that, that now takes that wall that we just put in and it flips it to go the other way. However, it keeps the exterior wall line as the set place because that is how I placed it. So that is my constant for this wall. And there you have it. You have now put in an exterior wall for your project. And let's just click at our 3D view real quick so you can see in 3D. We now have a structure wall that has got layers to it. And you know that because you looked at the wall assembly and can see that the layers are in there. However, looking at this view, you don't see those layers. Well, there's a reason for that, and that has to do with our visibility graphics. So if I were to come down here to my view control bar, I'm going to click on this next icon over which says detail level coarse. And what this is doing is it is telling the view that it wants to see the detail level at a coarse state so that there's not so many lines on the view. However, sometimes you want to see that detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this icon and I'm going to change it to fine. Now you see all of the layers that are inside of this model. And you can see this is our brick. And we know that because it's using that surface pattern that is normally used for brick. And we're also seeing our other layers in here, except You can't really see the chipboard. Well, that is because this view is showing you how this is going to print out when you actually set it to whatever printing apparatus you're going to use, whether it be a PDF or a true printer. It is applying hierarchy to the lines that are inside of the view, which are fine for when you're printing. However, sometimes that can throw you off when you're actually trying to model. So there is a tool that you can click on, which is up here inside of the quick access toolbar. Drawing space here somewhere, it will recognize the TL. So now if we zoom in, all the lines are the same and you can actually see the thickness of your chipboard. From here on out, you'll probably notice that I will have my thin lines on so that I can actually see where points meet inside of the model. But at any time, you could type in TL again, and you could turn those back off, and you can actually see how this is going to print. So it can give you a good idea of how your information is displaying to whoever's going to see your project documents. But I'm going to turn it right back off again. And that is visibility graphics in a nutshell. We've got our exterior walls in, so now let's add in some interior walls, but this time we're going to do them a little bit different. First, I'm going to come up here to my wall command again. I'm going to come over here to my type selector, and I'm going to change them to an interior wall, and I'm just going to use this interior 4.5-inch wall. I'm going to come over here to my design options toolbar, and I'm going to change it so that they all go up to the second floor. I'm next going to start to draw in some walls over here. First, I want to frame my garage. So I've got this set to wall center line to this other grid line, and then I'm going to come down to where it hits the wall on this side. And I'm going to hit escape twice. From here, I'm next going to draw in a wall up here, but instead of me going up here to this wall command and trying to remember which wall I used, I'm going to actually put my mouse over this wall here, do a right click, and tell it to create similar. It's a pretty cool tool inside of Revit. And what that is that makes it so that you don't have to remember between, maybe you might have a good 20, 30 different type of wall types in your project, and you don't have to sit there and remember each one, as long as you know that this is the wall that you like and it has the properties that you want to use, and you're going to use it again. I'm next going to draw in a wall. I'm not typing in any numbers yet. I'm just going to click somewhere in this wall here, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to take it straight up to the top wall, or in this case, the north wall. I'm going to then also draw where D is, and I'm going to take it over to 3. And you'll notice that it automatically ended even though chain is set, and that's because it hit something. It has something that it went into. So Revit will do something where if it realizes that it ends into another component, it will break the chain and allow you to start it again. So we're going to come down here to D. We're going to come over here to 3. And now, notice the chain is still going because they only get a grid line. A grid line is not necessarily a component. It's not a recognized modeled item, so you can keep going. And then I'm going to go up to my north wall again, and I'm going to hit. And now this one keeps going, and that is because I went past this line here, so it does not recognize it on this case. I'm going to hit escape. I only hit escape once, because I want to make sure that I stay inside of the command. And I'm going to draw about right here. Doesn't matter at this point. I'm going to draw in this next wall, and I'm going to click and hit right at this end. And I'm going to hit escape and get out of the command. From here, I'm going to put in one more set of walls. But this time, I'm going to change my top constraint. I don't want them to go up to the second floor. I want them to be half walls. So here's how you do that. You come over here to where it says height. You're going to change it from second floor to unconnected. Now you notice that this box is no longer gray, so I can put something in. I'm going to change this to be 3 feet. The next thing I'm going to do, because it is important that I stay along the face of these grid lines that I want to do over here, I'm going to change how I draw this. So instead of doing the wall center line, I'm going to click and I'm going to change this to the finished face interior. Now I'm going to click where C meets the wall, this left wall here, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to end it about 6 feet over. Still haven't typed anything in yet though. I'm next going to do a 45-degree wall, and you'll see that it's showing it for me. I can actually change this to whatever I want, but you do have that option of doing that. And then I'm going to do another piece of a wall going straight up. And I now have a shorter knee wall in, if you will. But let's say I come back over here to this wall, and I notice my dimensions is 9'6". Well, I don't feel that that is wide enough for me to be able to fit a car into. I need it to be a little bit wider, at least 10 feet. So here's how you change that. I want to make sure that I have 10 feet in between the right side of this wall, finished face, to the finished face of my exterior wall on the left-hand side. So I've got to come down here to my dimension line, and I'm going to click this grip right here, which is called my witness. And I'm just going to single click it, and you'll notice what it's doing. It popped over to the finished face of this wall. Well, that's the wrong one. I need the other side. So I'm going to click it again. And now it goes to the finished face of the other wall. I'm going to come over here because this one is still going to the center line as well. So I'm going to click this grip, and it's going to go to the finished face as well. And you'll notice, now looking at our dimension, we've lost almost 2 feet here, so it's 8'10". I want it to be 10 feet. So all I need to do now is I need to click on this dimension and change it to say 10 feet. And it will now move it over to give me the dimension that I want. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Let's check this one to see if this is actually what I want. If I were to click that wall, once again, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to click this grip. It goes to that face. Click it again, it goes to this face. If I come down here, click this grip, it goes to that face, and it says 18'10". I want 20 feet. So once again, because I need to move this wall up, I'm changing the distance between this wall to this wall. I'm going to click this dimension and change it to 20 feet, and it now moves. So if I technically wanted to change the length of this wall, I changed the distance that this wall is from this wall. So Revit works off of the concept of adjacencies to something else, or a parallel or aligned wall. So this is an aligned dimension inside of Revit. Now that I have this set up, we have now used dimensions to move items around inside of a space.